All right, here we are, day 6 of 365 days of meditation. Today's meditation was a little bit different. Um, I was feeling a little bit run down, so I didn't wake up. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and if I'm having trouble falling back asleep, I'll just get up and meditate and then go back to bed after. So it's one of my hacks. Biphasal sleep is a thing. I discovered it recently. Check it out. It's kind of interesting. Biphasal sleep might give you some insight as to why you wake up in the middle of the night. Anyway, because I gave myself a bit of extra sleep and I'm doing an online course of Joe Dispenza's, and one of the modules requires that you go through one of his guided meditations, I decided to do that this afternoon instead. So I did it around 3 o'clock, I think. I also chose a guided meditation at that hour because there's noises going on in the background. I live in an apartment building, and having the headphones in and following a guided meditation is less distracting than when I sit there early in the morning and it's completely silent. So, Joe Dispenza's meditation is great. I will link to his website. You can go check it out, Changing Beliefs and Perceptions. I did that meditation in the past for, I think, about 50 days straight. Super powerful. Yeah, a lot of growth, change in sort of thinking patterns and emotional state as a result of doing that meditation. So that ties into the other topic I just like to touch on, which is why I meditate. It's exactly for that reason, to change the things that I am believing about myself or the world, the way I'm perceiving the world, and then the thoughts that are arising as a result of these belief systems that I'm holding. So by looking at the belief systems I held, by probing my subconscious, suggesting mantras and finding resistance, and then figuring out what the underlying belief is that I'm holding on to that is creating that resistance, I'm able to then suggest an alternative belief while in a sort of theta state, and sort of with enough repetition get it into the subconscious. So that is the reason I meditate, and the reason I'm working on that. Again, beliefs going to determine sort of your habitual ways of thinking. Once you think things enough times or run a thought process enough times, it will start to happen automatically. It'll happen in your subconscious. It's how we learn essentially anything. You learn how to ride a bike. It requires focus, effort initially. First multiple times you chastise yourself, you're beating yourself up in this intentional manner because you screwed something up. You hop on the bike for the first time, you're focused on the pedaling and the balancing. Eventually, you don't have to focus on the pedaling and balancing. It just happens as you cruise down the road and take in the scenery and talk to the person riding next to you. Similarly, eventually, you don't have to chastise yourself or do whatever negative self-talk or thinking process that's not serving you. You don't have to do it intentionally. It'll just start to creep in, pop in when things in your life are occurring. So I work on the belief. I work on changing the thought processes that are being driven by that belief. And then ultimately, the reason I do that from a mental health perspective is that your thoughts drive your emotional state. Your emotional state is directly linked to what you are thinking. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, there is some thought process that is going on. You might not even be conscious of it yet. It might just be happening in the background on loop. And that thought process is driving the depression. It's depressed state is driving the anxiety, or the state of anxiety. Our brain fires, neuropeptides released, neurotransmitters released, stimulates the glandular system, hormones released, and that pharmacological concoction in the body is the emotional state that we experience. So beliefs driving thoughts, thoughts driving your emotional state. And that's the reason I work on it. In addition to that, your beliefs and your thinking processes, your perceptions are also going to drive your behaviors. So it will determine the actions you do or do not take in your life automatically, habitually, without thinking about it. I'll share a win. The first time I realized that you could change your sort of habitual ways of thinking was very early on in meditation. And I would sit in silence when I first started trying to meditate, just sitting in silence, not expecting anything, and my mind would wander, and I'd get upset, I'd get angry with myself, I'd chastise myself, I'd beat myself up, I'd judge myself for allowing my mind to wander, which is a normal part of meditation. It's part of the practice. Refocusing and extending your length of focus in the present moment is part of the practice. I didn't realize it at the time, so I beat myself up. When I did figure out that that was part of the practice and that you could change sort of these habitual loops of thinking, when I did figure that out, I decided that when my mind started to wander and I started to beat myself up for allowing my mind to wander, I would step in and I would correct that behavior, that thought process, that negative chatter. I would correct it, and I would just say, it's not a big deal. You know, it's okay for my wander. It's just like, welcome back. We're gonna keep going. It's not a big deal. And so sort of gently correct myself after initially I started attacking myself. And after about a month of doing this daily, gently correcting, after I initially went into that automatic habit of beating myself up, I was sitting there in meditation, my mind started to wander, and before I even knew what happened, the dialogue that popped into my head was not negative. Instead, what popped into my head on that particular day, that particular meditation, was, hey buddy, welcome back. Calm, loving, encouraging, gentle, corrective behavior. I went straight to that without even having to intentionally attempt it or think about it. It just happened automatically. And so with enough practice, you can retrain your habitual ways of thinking. And that's why meditation is great. It is the ultimate practice ground. There are no distractions. There are no external stimuli or trigger that might cause habitual ways of thinking to just start to automatically occur as you go unconscious in your daily life. That's why meditation is powerful. That's why I use it for my mental health. And I would say that the more you meditate, the easier it gets. The faster you also start to see changes. It doesn't take a month every time for every little change you want to make. Once you start meditating more, it happens quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. And as an example, myself right now, I mean, I've only been at this for a handful of days now. I had stopped meditating for a while. I had gone into a depression. Here I am after a handful of days of meditation, and I feel great again. So the more you meditate, even if you stop and pick it back up again, the turnaround happens quicker. So if you haven't meditated before, I highly suggest it. And most importantly, if you are struggling mentally, emotionally, if you are stuck in unhealthy habit loops, if you are ruminating on things that are not useful, ruminating on the past, if you are distressed or worrying about the future, and you feel like it is negatively impacting your quality of life, if you are depressed or anxious, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. It'll only get better. It'll only help, I assure you. If you enjoyed this video, like. If you want to get notified, I guess you subscribe or ding a bell or something. And thank you for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Leave a comment or a question if you have it. Take care.